Hi, this is Kumar Singh from Design Analytics LLC, and you're watching another episode of Tuesday Trivia. Well, the trivia or the question that we are going to discuss today is the algorithm most important component, most time consuming, most critical component of an AI solution? And before we start diving deeper, let's start with a short one word answer. The answer is no. Okay, so to illustrate, let's consider one of the solutions that you may have seen doing rounds on LinkedIn, right? The car damage detection algorithm, right? That's being by some one or a couple of car rental companies, not doing so good in terms of customer satisfaction and complaints, right? So I actually shared it. I shared about it in one of the LinkedIn posts, and I mentioned that this is a good example of or a good example highlighting why the algorithm or the solution itself is not the most important part, right? I also mentioned that at one point I was able to actually replicate this type of algorithm within a matter of hours. I lost those videos when Vimeo deleted them because my subscription expired. So to prove the basis of my short one word answer that was no in the beginning of the episode, I recreated that algorithm. So I downloaded the data set again and built the CNN, convolutional neural network based algorithm. Now these algorithms or these kind of solutions are known as YOLO, you only look once, which are real time object detection solutions powered by CNNs, right? So as you can see here, considering that there was some learning already from my last time building this, I was able to build it in a much shorter time. But the question then arises is, if I was able to actually build it in an hour, does that make it a solution? Does that even make it an algorithm, a complete algorithm? The answer is, again, no. And that's why I keep on emphasizing, right, that the algorithm in itself, right, building that initial version is basically trivial. It doesn't matter or ranks high in terms of importance. See, a comprehensive solution, even if you're looking at just the technology aspect of it, you need backend engineers, data engineers, machine learning engineers, data scientists, right, product managers, system analysts, and project managers to build and implement it. But the most important thing is you take a step back before all of that happens to understand how is this solution going to fit, right? So if we go back to that again, that real world example of damage detection, if nobody thought that this was going to impact customer satisfaction, then it was a disaster, right? Because something like this can be envisioned to definitely impact customer satisfaction, right? See, it has happened to me almost a decade ago, and I ended up writing to the CEO of Enterprise, I think, right? But I'm a person who goes by like trust, right? So my initial assumption always is that I'm trusting the honesty of the other side, right? And it's a challenging thing, right? Because that means that you may be open to deception. But I think it's kind of human. It's what makes me human that I go with the trust. So there may have been some dent somewhere, right? A very small check, right? That I never noticed, right? When they did the walk around and they said, oh, everything looks good. And I was like, thank you. I took the car, took it back. They didn't say anything when I returned it. Normally they like take a quick walk around, they did it and then gave me the receipt. And later I was told that there is a damage, right? Which I never saw, right? So I ended up writing that there was no damage and all that stuff, right? So to the credit of the rental company, they dropped that charge, right? But that gave me a lesson, an unfortunate one, but I think that's the reality, that now as they do the round whenever I rent a car, I look very carefully, right? So that was a customer experience issue. Even though they dropped the damage whenever possible, I try not to rent again with that company, right? So I think the important aspect here is that customer satisfaction aspect was ignored when thinking about the initial high level design and architecture of the process, right? So we are so much focused on the technology aspect that we forget that actually the technology aspect is the least important part, right? How the technology fits in, it becomes much more critical in the AI world, actually much more important than some other solutions that you may have implemented, because one is that there's this big hype, so there are so many expectations, right? And the second aspect is that more often than not we are trying to actually replace some key tasks with AI, right? So if you're trying to replace those key tasks with AI, you also need to have an understanding of if something goes bad. First of all, you need to have an understanding of how exactly which tasks you can cherry pick, and then how the rest of the team integrates with those tasks and deliverables. But then the second aspect is, if something goes wrong, what's the redundancy in terms of people and processes to handle it? So I hope by replicating a solution to to detect damage in car in an hour, I was able to show you. And again, I'm not a professional programmer, or I've never been a coder. I've learned coding. I'm a self-taught programmer. I did not even major in computer science. I am an electrical engineering major who did MBA, then supply chain management, then again AI. So in my AI program, I kind of refreshed my coding skills, but I have never been a professional software engineer or programmer. So if I can replicate this so easily, those who are professionals will be able to replicate it much faster, right? So imagine building this in less than an hour. But the point is that building that solution leveraging code, right, and with good accuracy, good metrics and all, is not the initial step, is not the critical part. If you take just the algorithm also, think about this, right? So you keep all the aspects aside, the solution design and all those roles that I mentioned to bring this to production and make this a reality. Even during and after implementation, you have to keep improving the model, right? And believe me, when you go live, even in pilot, you will run into so much shit that will make you think, oh my god, my entire model ended up being trashed, which is not the case, right? Unless you panic, but which is not the case. But that's what happens when the model faces the real world beyond training the first time, and then eventually you can actually turn it around, right? That's the entire game. So I hope that I was able to explain why my short answer was no when I said that AI algorithms are not the most important part of an AI solution. Well, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you again on Thursday.